folks at Jinko Fishing are not only bringing you the Low Budget Live podcast these days, they want to bring you, the low lifer, a discount on everything on their website. LBL25 at jinkofishing.com is going to save you on those new 10 Cannon topwaters, the array of crankbaits that they have, maybe an offspring buzzer, or what about a high roller rod? So much to choose from at jinkofishing.com. LBL25 is going to save you money, and let them know you are a low lifer. Express Boats, hang the daggum banner. The Bassmaster Classic winning original all welded aluminum bass catching machine. The X21 Pro is what I'm running, but they got the X19, they got the H20, the H18, they got bay boats, they got duck boats. They have a boat for any budget and any style. They've even got pontoons on the veranda pontoon side. Check them out, expressboats.com. Find a dealer near you, and I promise you, you go take a ride, you may be leaving with one. Express Boats, building excitement since 1966.
Damn these Biloxi blues, it happens every night.
Every old night.
And I ain't never met a riverboat dealer that could ever be a friend of mine.
I have not.
The summer heat never treats me kind, it leaves trouble on my mind. So I'm bidding farewell, putting in my notice, and I'll see you at another time. This highway does not know my name, and I don't care. No, I don't.
I don't.
Heading my way for another place, and I got 3 good tires and a spare. Just a white line gypsy getting out of Mississippi with just enough gas to get there.
Low budget live, the not so live variety from the Low Budget Live Bar and Grill here in beautiful southern middle Tennessee, and welcome you bunch of low lifers. That song is Biloxi Blues, and that's the song we kick off every single podcast with, or most of the podcast. And this is like episode 322. And I think there's probably more than that out there floating around in the ether. But this is the podcast for Monday, June the 9th. And I appreciate you low lifers tuning in. Y'all heard me say it last week. June is fixing to be crazy, and I'm in the middle of it. I traveled in the last few days. I have been to Arkansas, Texas, and back. Had to go with them old Jinko boys. Gosh, we filmed some stuff over in Gunner. They got some stuff on Pickwick. Excuse me. We got some stuff coming. I can't wait. I can't wait for y'all to see it. But also a buy one get one free rod sale. I know you've already seen the Jinko ad, but a buy one get one right now through Father's Day. Get on there. Buy one get one on rods. Check it out. And my code does not work, but LBL25 does not work on the rod sale, but you can get you a Gambler Series rod, buy one, get one. Anyways, went and did that. And then today, I'm actually recording on Friday. I've got to roll down to Eufaula for the Alabama Bass Trail. It's like a 5.5 hour drive from the house, pulling the Express down, be doing some live coverage for the ABT 100, and then back Saturday night, only to leave again Sunday evening and go back on the road, and then have another Alabama Bass Trail at the end of the week next week. So busy, and proud to be. Let me just say that. Proud to be busy. Always proud to be busy. Good week. Other than, I want to throw this out there, just a little PSA, and we're going to move on. A lot of people commented and said, why would you give this any more attention than you should? I just think it needs to be said. If you're a fan of what I do, or if you don't like what I do, I want you to hear this. There are lines that can be blurred. I do bring my family into this podcast life. I've brought my wife. She's a triple threat. She's known on the show. She's done a few episodes with me. She loves the fact that she's been a part of it, right? And I love the fact that she has. People seem to enjoy those episodes. When they see us in public, at a fishing event or whatever, they know who she is, and she enjoys that too. And I think that's cool for her, right? But I had a jackass, Jake Blakesley was his name, and he's since gone into hiding on social media, and he should have, because about 30,000 people saw this video that I made on Sunday evening. But he messaged my wife, basically that I suck. Never sent me any messages or comments or anything like that. But he messaged Marissa, and he sent her a message on Instagram, and he told her she should be embarrassed of herself for even being married to me and what a piece of garbage I was. Now, look, here's the deal. I do not care what you think about me. If you don't like me, it's what makes the world go round. Everybody's got an opinion. Cool. You know, there are lots of low-lifers that do enjoy this show, and I'm grateful for each and every one. That being said, if you're going to message my wife about, if you want to say, hey, you were great on the podcast, whatever, still kind of weird to message somebody's wife. But if you're going to bash me to my wife or tell my wife she should be embarrassed for herself, just be glad that you and I don't know each other like in real life. And it's just the internet that you can hide behind because that's the kind of stuff that gets your teeth rearranged. I'm just going to say that. But PSA, don't message my wife about how bad I suck. You can message me. I'm probably not going to reply. But, you know, just how crazy this is a fishing podcast. I get that I'm opinionated. I get that I'm a smart aleck, all the things. It's fishing at the end of the day. Calm down. So, Jake Blakesley, you can just, let's see, where's it? Right on off, bud. And I think he did. So, anyways, that being said, PSA, BPT this week, Kentucky Lake, they're only, as I record this, they're only just getting through the second day. Absolutely smashing. A lot of numbers, a lot of 2.5 pounders. Saw some over 5 get caught as well. It's great to see. I'm a Tennessee River rat. Kentucky Lake's always been, one of the gems, and it is slowly working its way back, in my opinion. And it's been off for a number of years now, and it's so awesome to see. The smallmouth have boomed. We've seen that, but seeing the largemouth play and the typical ledge guys are smashing over there. Pretty fun to see what they're doing over there. Other than that, not a lot going on in the pro fishing world. We got 10 killer coming up with the elites next week. Some crazy water conditions. It's been flooded out. I think they're going to have a lot of current. It's going to be I think that's going to be a cool event. I like when they go new places. They've been there once before when Kyle won. Feel me hot. Carl got it done. But really cool tournament for him and changed his entire life. But haven't been there since, and that was in the falls, a little grimy. I think they're really going to catch them over there. This is going to be a fun one. And then we got MPFL the next week as well. So that's what's going on pretty much in bass fishing right now. Team USA, congrats to Panger. I got to say that. Congrats to Panger and Upshaw. Matt Pangrak and Andrew Upshaw won the dang thing, won gold, caught a giant stringer fish, and congrats. Well, Panger's a fish catcher. It was awesome to see. I've been buddies with those guys and over the years, and it's cool to see that. So congrats to them. We talked to Canterbury when he was there getting ready, and Panger and Upshaw pulled the damn thing off. All right. We have a guest today, and I've said this many times on the show and outside of the show. She is one of my favorite people in the industry that I've ever met for so many different reasons. And her work ethic is truly unmatched. Her addiction to fishing is unmatched, regardless of species. And she's just an overall badass. Okay. Her social media is positive. It's fantastic. And she just truly gets it, in my opinion. She just won the Bassmaster Kayak Series at 10 Killer, where the elites are going to set up shop this week. As you're listening to this, the elites will be practicing there. I call her the kayak queen. She can't stand it. But here she is, ladies and gentlemen, Kristine Fischer. All right, as promised, here she is. I called you the kayak queen in the intro. I know you hate that, but I get to say that. You're just a fishing queen. In my opinion, you do it the right way. I tell you this all the time. You are one of my favorite folks in the industry, but you're one of my favorite folks to keep up with. Your social media, your tournament game, you work as hard as anybody here. And Kristine Fischer, I'm glad to have you back on LBL.
Well, Luke, as I tell you every time, I do hate when you say that, but I appreciate it too. It means a lot. I'm so thankful to have you and a lot of other folks in the industry that I respect and just absolutely adore in my corner. It means more than you know. And it's about time we got another podcast going.
I know you stay running and I stay running. And we finally, you said, hey, I've got 3 days I'm at home or something like that. And I'm like, wait, you have a home? Because you're never there. You have grown up in Nebraska, but now you are a volunteer state resident when you actually do pass through and decide to stay in East Tennessee for a minute or two.
Yep, that's absolutely right. And it feels kind of good. I love Tennessee. I love the fishing here. Really, it's not about the bass fishing, it's about the muskie fishing. And that's honest to goodness why I built a house here, because I wanted to have the month that I did have absolutely nothing going on in December. I'm chasing the toothy fish on the rivers, and that's all I want to do.
And
leave me alone. That's all I want to do.
I know. I was going to say that's the most amazing thing to me is you could throw all this bass fishing stuff away tomorrow and just go do that. That is truly what you want to do is muskie fish and muskie in a kayak. You had a video earlier this year. And it's such a freaking rodeo.
It's insane.
I just can't. I've got to get a dose of it at some point. I've never caught a muskie. I've had them chase smallmouth at St. Clair and had close calls and whatever, but I've never actually caught one. I can't fathom catching one in a kayak, but I know some of those. I know some of those rivers. I hear things.
All you got to do is holler, and I put a lot of people on their first muskie. You just got to give it. You got to give it 2 days, and I'll get you one.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take you up on that. Well, I see you've got the lucky hat on, so that's a good place to start. I actually wrote that in my notes. It's only fitting that a Turnpike Troubadours fan such as yourself would win on an Oklahoma lake for your most recent dub there, Lake 10 Killer, where the Elite Series is going. So first of all, congratulations on that. And you said you wore the hat during the event. You had to.
Yep. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. Love that lake. I've loved the Turnpike Troubadours since inception of Turnpike Troubadours. I saw them before they were nobody in Lincoln, Nebraska at a little hole in the wall bar like 3 or 4 times. They always sold out there, which selling out was, I think, like 40 people.
Yeah.
For capacity. But I love them, man. Like you and I talk about the lyrics all the time, and they went through kind of a rough patch there for a little bit. That was devastating, but now they're back and their new album is absolutely incredible. So.
And to me, just a story of redemption and like getting your crap together and figuring out life and just all the pieces coming together for you. Like their story is so cool. And you've got to meet Ryan Engelman, who is obsessed with our world, of bass fishing. He loves fishing so much. It's his therapy. It's where he goes to get away from the craziness of being a rock star lead guitar player in a country band that travels nonstop. And he picked it up in 2020, and it's kind of how he and I got to know each other. And he was so, when I told him about you a couple years ago, I guess, and was like, hey, do you make sure you're following Kristine? And I'm like, dude, biggest Turnpike, like winning out here, repping in an old school Turnpike hat. And he still owes you one, I think. Ryan still owes you a new hat.
He does. I'm still waiting for it. I love this one, though. I don't even know if you can find this one anymore. It looks like an old Redman label.
I need one of those, and I've not been able to find one.
I'll look at the
yeah, that's I've got a lot of t-shirts but I've never been able to find that hat in particular. I'm sure in the Turnpike warehouses somewhere there's one
rolling around.
Yeah, he'll find one, I'm sure, at some point. But well, congrats. This is your first win on the Bassmaster kayak side of things. You've had obviously wins and success on all the other trails, but this was your first one. How does that feel, just having that name in the mix on the trophy?
It's it's kind of crazy. It didn't really hit me until I realized I'd won it. And I have several Bassmaster top 3s. I got a second and a couple thirds and a fourth, numerous other top 10s on the Bassmaster kayak thing, but I hadn't ever won one. And growing up, we're not really growing up, but just getting into the competitive bass fishing world and hearing about this rumored blue trophy, everybody always kind of thinks about that, and It was definitely really special. Bassmaster is one of the biggest names, if not the biggest name in bass fishing. You know, they've been around for a long time, and it's a highly coveted accomplishment. They actually called me after I won, and they said that this was the first time in history that a female has won a Bassmaster trophy, like first place. Yeah.
I mean, I think about it.
Yeah. Which, you know, immediately, you know, I kind of get a little just the same way I felt a long time ago when people were like, this is the first time a female has ever broke a top 3. This is the first time.
Yeah.
I didn't really set out to make it all about that. But, you know, again, when I look at the hundreds of messages and shares by women and little girls, it helps me realize that even though that's not as big of a deal to me, it is to them. And that does kind of mean something. So that was kind of cool too. A little bit of history there.
Well, and I know you are definitely someone, it's like me jokingly calling you the kayak queen. You try to, like, your goal, in my opinion, knowing you, is to break down these boundaries. Like, you don't want titles. You don't want, as far as like the first female, like you're just an angler. You put that first. Like, you love to catch fish, whether it's a muskie, a dadgum bluegill through the ice, or a bass or a salt, you know, whatever. You're just fishing all the time. Like, I keep up with you, you fish. And so I know how you kind of get, you kind of cringe a little bit on that stuff, but you represent, like you said, so many. And I want to tell you something that made me so proud. My wife and I were actually talking about this when Bassmaster made the post about you, seeing the comments. There were so many on the post. It was as many as I had seen on any of their posts this year. And really the first one I've seen this year that was nothing but positivity. Yeah. And I was blown away by that, because even in the most fantastic uplifting situations on the internet, especially in the bass fish world, most of the time, there's some garbage that does follow. But man, I just kind of scrolled through, and it was so cool to see. And I love that for you so much. And that is a pretty daggum cool fun fact right there. First ever female to hoist a Bassmaster trophy. And now I have the title for this podcast, and you and I will surely get some hate over it.
No, we were just talking about this off camera, that we always cause controversy unintentionally. And I was really hoping to stay away from that this time, but I guess we just can't, can we?
Nailed it. First, in all caps, first ever female winner of the Bassmasters, or Bassmasters' first ever female winner. Got it. If you don't think I'm not good, as you're watching this, low lifers, you already know that's what the title is, because Kristine gave it to me right there.
Yeah, I just eat that. Gosh,
there'll be somebody that goes back to like 1972 and comments, my Aunt Sally. Now listen, she was throwing a man's jelly worm, and you followed, and they just didn't write it down. She won. Kristine, anything. Just wait. It's coming.
You know, that's what's really interesting about, you know, all the comments. I wasn't able to get through all of them, but I did get through a lot. And Bassmaster's always told me that, you know, they share a lot of people's content, and they kind of go through and look at all the comments. And they said that whenever they share mine, it's myself, and there's one other person where it's always positive, and that's Seth Fighter. It's usually me and Seth Fighter that have just the most positive feedback. But when there were just a handful that were, you know, a little, there's of course, if you think she found her own fish, you know, this is all rigged. There was like one or two of those out of thousands. But then there were also a couple that pulled kind of that card where it's like, you know, you're not a trailblazer. There's been way more prominent women before you, or you're not a, you know, name dropping a couple of them. And comparing me to these other women that came before me, or saying that I didn't, you know, there's been so many more accomplishments. I'm not the GOAT. And it's like, man, why do we have to always, why can't we just lift somebody up like and recognize these women that came before me without diminishing what I'm doing?
Well, I was going to say, you're following in their footsteps. Yes. If they trailblazed, you grab the torch and you're running a 4040 40-yard dash with it, in my opinion, right now, you are all over the place. You go from working shows to producing content to fishing as many tournaments as you can. Now you're doing the boat deal a little bit. You're mixing it in. You're not staying in the boat that much from videos I've seen. You stay in the kayak. You stay in the kayak. Amazingly, the number one comment I see with Kristine Fischer most of the time is, "Oh my God, how do you stand up and not fall in?" And you're constantly standing up and doing craziness in the kayak. But then you'll post a video in your Ranger taking a swim, and you've done that several times now. Why, Kristine? Why do you end up in the water in the bass boat and not the kayak?
Listen, I try to tell people all the time. I used to be very athletic. I'm not so much anymore. My kayak makes me look good. It's not anything to my own doing. And the boat, goodness, they underestimate when you get like 80 pounds of Gunnersville hydrilla on that trolling motor. I'm strong, but I am no match for a trolling motor loaded up with hydrilla. And I'll lose every single time.
It does add a lot to it. I've been there, done that many times in my life. But yeah, that last one you posted, I was like, now look, she's as agile as anybody I've ever seen in a kayak, and she can't stand on the front deck of a bass boat. Like we're gonna have to discuss this at some point. But you're starting to get the hang of it. And I think you and I've talked about this on the record and off the record. But to you, when you go into like these opens and you've got the boat with you, what does the approach look like versus a typical kayak event for you, whether that's practice or competition? How do you look at it? I mean, obviously it has to be different, right?
It really is. You know, the very first open, I tried to approach it like, you know, I would go where I'm going to fish in the kayak. And I was thinking, you know, we can launch at any public ramp. And I only practiced so far up that river. And I didn't realize that I was going to have to make I think it was 48-mile run one way. And with somebody, you know, with me, like the safety is everything. And I watch how some of these people drive boats and how they're not watching people coming before them and after them and crossing over the lake. And that's been kind of my main thing. You know, there's still a lot I'm learning with the boat, and it's going to take me a while before I can just solely get out there and I'm so comfortable and I can fish. You know, so I started to learn that I need to approach this and understand, you know, where I can run to, what I can get to, what's safe for me, and maybe stick a little bit closer to the launch and get that down first. So, you know, I don't have all that other stuff to worry about. But as far as that goes, you know, then I went to Tom Bigby, and the approach, I kind of did that the same way I would approach a kayak tournament. I looked at areas. I knew that was going to be kind of tough with the flooding, and just, you know, from what I've understood, that is a pretty difficult fishery anyway. And I was really proud of myself, because even though I only brought, I think, 2 fish and then I caught 4 the second day, they were good quality fish. And I found the right fish, was doing the right thing. I didn't get them to the boat. But I was really proud of myself on that one. And I just hope that each and every time I can just improve a little bit, you know, the boat positioning, the running the boat, boat control. I'm getting better on the trolling motor, but that's all starting to click for me and make sense. So I think just a little bit more time and just a little bit more practice up there, one of these days.
And for me, I'm the exact opposite, in the sense of, like, I love to kayak fish. You know, I've talked about this. I'm horrible at it. I've never had a good, what I would consider a good one that's stable or whatever. But it's the same for me on that. Like, if you put me in a kayak, I'm bumbling, fumbling, dropping rods in, whatever. But to somebody listening that runs a trolling motor all the time, they're like, well, that's easy. Well, it's really, to me, boat control is one of the most underrated things in our entire sport. And the guys that I'm fortunate to get to watch, whether it's MPFL, Alabama Bass Trail, or the folks that we follow along on MLF and Bassmaster Live, they make it look so easy at times, especially like breaking down, like a fighter. You watch fighter break down a lay down, and he's up there on the trolling motor and he's working the power pole. Like, it's a careful dance, and it's no different than you in the kayak getting things lined up and you know, being able to skip under a dock and being able to, this week but boat position is everything, not blowing out your spot. And I could see where that would be tricky. As we get into summertime, the folks at Gill Fishing have your back. They want you to be more comfortable, whether you're out there on the water, maybe you're spending all day at the ballpark. They can keep you cool. They can keep you dry. They've got shorts, sun gloves, sun shirts, and some of the best rain suits in the game at gillfishing.com. And the best part is they want you to save just for being a lowlifer, just for listening to this weed eater voice. LBL20 is the code you're going to use at checkout to let them know you're a lowlifer and save 20% at gillfishing.com. Pro Guide Batteries, ProGuideBatteries.com is where you can find everything they make, from their lead acid batteries to their AGMs to their new charger line and the all-new Alpha Series lithium batteries. Do not trust people that have not been in the battery industry for years and years and years. Like the folks from Pro Guide, they have 40 years of experience in the battery game. They are not a fly-by-night company. Check them out. ProGuideBatteries.com. Use code LBL10 at checkout to let them know you're a lowlifer and save 10%. Baitworks.com, bait-wrx.com, the exclusive online home for this little guy right here, the LOB Power Finesse Jig with that 3-aught trocar hook, finer than frog hair skirt material, and it is a bass catcher. Do not just take my word for it. Get you some, try them out. I promise you, you will not regret it. And while you're there, check out everything Baitworks has to offer. They've got pretty much all you could ever need to go on a fishing trip. Dunkin-10, DUNKIN-10 will save you money at checkout, and let them know you are a lowlifer. And last but certainly not least, the folks from Old Boy Outfitters want you to say, "What's up, old boy?" Wear your heart on your sleeve. If you love hunting, if you love fishing, they are an outdoor lifestyle brand. T-shirts, shorts, sun shirts, really cool hats, a little bit of everything. Oldboyoutfitters.com. You can use code OLEBOYLUKE, O-L-E boy, Luke at checkout to save some cash. Go into that, even though you grew up fishing, but it is different. And we've talked about this in the past, but I just want to see if things have, mentality wise have changed for you at all. What's the overall game plan still? Now you're mixing in some of the boat stuff. Is it just kind of let the path take you where it will? Or is it, I'm going to be on the Dadgum Elite Series, I'm going to be the first woman in the Bassmaster Classic? Like what's the Kristine Fischer game plan right now, career wise?
If you would ask me that 5 years ago, it would have been, I'm going to be the daggum person that breaks through, qualifies for the elites, want to make the classic. My goals over the last several years have really shifted though. I don't need to be that gal. I don't need to at all. My main goal, and what I really was thinking of when I switched from the kayak to the boat, is that I could have stayed in kayak fishing, been super successful. I spent way less money and, focused on a lot of things and been very comfortable there, and been able to do that, honestly, probably the rest of my career. I knew it was going to be a big risk jumping into the boat, and there were a lot of things that were going to go with it, but I thought that there was a really good story there. And I thought that, I've been able to help get so many women into kayak fishing. We have more women competing at the national level in kayak tournaments now than we ever have. And I was hoping that there might be a chance that I could do that on the boat side too, and get more young women, because in order for somebody to break through, I really do believe, just with the level of competition and the kids coming up and how good they are, it's going to have to be a gal that's fishing in high school. Maybe she's at the front of the boat starting to learn things on her own and she's not the co-angler. Then she fishes in college and then she carries that on through and wants to fish the opens. And a lot of women that I've talked to, the reason that they don't, it's a lot of intimidation. They always see the women that have tried before, and they've, no one's really been that successful in the opens when it comes to women, but it's because there's just not as many of us doing it. And I want these gals to know that I'm going to leave something that I'm really good at and really comfortable. There wasn't a lot of risk, and I'm going to jump into this. And if I get my teeth kicked in over and over and over again, and I'm someone that has zero boating experience, and it's a whole new learning thing, because a lot of women are so intimidated just to get a boat back in the trailer, or knowing how to, hook it up, just real simple things that a lot of you guys probably take for granted that have grown up in that world. And I wanted to kind of take people along that journey and show that it's okay. You can make a positive impact regardless what the leaderboard says. And, in fishing right now, you and I both know it, there's a lot of good things, but there's also so much heaviness. in so many different ways, and in the women's fishing specifically, what I have noticed, and I've noticed this now working with Yeti and GoPro and some of the different women's categories, like professional mountain bikers, professional hunting guides, women that also operate in that. And our biggest setback isn't men, preventing us from getting in this. It's women. It's other women, and the competitiveness and the jealousy. And I want to really put this message out there that we've got to start championing other women and wanting them to be successful. Like, I can't wait to pass that torch off. I can't wait to see another gal, beat my accomplishments and do better than me. I'll be bawling. You shared that, Stephanie, in the top 10 2 years ago, and I was crying. I shared it all over everything.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So I really am hoping by this journey for me that it's just something that when people can look at, men or women, and draw some inspiration from it.
Well, and that's what it's about to me. Your journey is inspiring, whether you're a man or a woman. It should be, because it shows you that work ethic matters, shows that being a good human matters, being yourself matters, and you are yourself all the time. And I tell you this a lot. I'm proud to know you. I'm proud of what you're about. And I would say, gatekeeping is a good way to put it on the women's side, because we have seen, you and I got caught up into some negativity when I think did the first podcast we ever did together.
Yeah.
And it's like, you want to be the only one kind of thing. Well, I can be the token woman, so to speak, in this. Oh, wait, now there's more. Well, that's not good. That's not good for me, because then I can't take advantage of the sponsors and the this and the that. And your approach has always been, let's grow this thing where more ladies want to get involved. Let's grow this thing where the 6-year-old little girl that stumbles across my content, that watches fishing with her dad is inspired to go, you know what? That's not just a male dominated thing. Like, I can go get involved in that. That looks really fun too. And I think that your journey being about that, and your own personal journey, right? Like, you're highly competitive. You want to succeed. Like, you want to kick everybody's tail in these tournaments, but there's also this underlying theme of you want to bring more ladies into the sport. And I do think you're doing that. I love hearing that on the kayak side, you're seeing that. Do you feel like through these Bassmaster workshops and things that you guys are seeing, are you seeing this movement? Do you think it is getting bigger on the female side?
I think so. Yeah. Just after every workshop, seeing the women there, and, we have to, our heart beats for the competitive side, right? And mine always will. But one thing we forget about is just the women that are going to these workshops that may have lost their husband and their kids want to fish. And so these moms are wanting to learn. And we've had so many women just in tears, just learning about the things. And they're like, we really love doing this now. And just having a little bit more confidence to get out there and take their kids. And I have had a lot of women that have attended those seminars that have contacted me personally, that I've kind of mentored behind the scenes a little bit the last year or so, that are now, a couple of them are now fishing in high school on their high school fishing team, and they were too scared to do it before. So, even if it reaches just a handful of women, in my opinion, totally worth it. And I think that there's a lot of possibility to come with that. And, part of it too, we do talk a lot about the inspiring the women, but a lot of people say now that bass fishing is, you have to be a millionaire to do it. And it is, the price of entry is insane. But a lot of people think that either your parents have to have money to be able to get into this. I don't come from anything. I have the most amazing family, but they're blue collar, small business owners. And they have not given me a dime since I was 16 years old. I worked 3 jobs right outside of college. I had 2 jobs in college while being a college athlete, did things pretty backwards in terms of, how to get through a lot of that stuff. But that's just, I've always kind of went against the grain, but I literally held down 3 jobs until I was 28. And didn't have the money to buy a bass boat. So I kind of took slower steps, and I didn't get into the bass boat now until I was 36. So there's also, you're never too old or too, far gone to get into it. And you really can do anything you want to do, regardless if you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth or not. I think there's a lot of people don't see that. And they're so quick to assume that you must have just had so much stuff handed to you, and you must have had all of these your hand in life was just dealt much better than theirs.
Yeah.
And it's not always the case, you know.
Well, I will say, yes, people do get dealt with a different hand than you or I, whether that's a positive hand or a negative hand. But I think it is all about what you do with it. And I know so many that have stories similar to yours where you grew up blue collar. Hell, I grew up blue collar, but like my buddy Darian with Y'all Sweet Tea, crazy situation growing up, and now he's on Shark Tank and doing big things. But I'm just saying, it's all about what you choose. And I do feel the people that make the comment, the daddy's money comments, or they were given this.
It's definitely there.
It's real. Listen, I see it. I see it every week at the boat ramp. It's real. And look, I'll tell you, I get a little jealous. Little old buddy pulls up. He's 17 years old and he's sitting on 22-inch wheels and $100,000 truck pulling a brand new boat in. I'm like, damn, son, I was fishing co-angler into BFL, hoping I didn't draw some guy that was gonna, have me casting at a daggum bridge column all day long with like this much room when I was 16. But and my dad and I fished out of like a 17-foot Bumblebee with a 115 on it. It is what it is. That's fine. But I wasn't throwing the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. Now, my mom and dad supported everything I wanted to do. Once I decided that was my journey, they sacrificed and all that. Wouldn't be here today without them and doing what I get to do in the fishing industry. They loved that I had a dream that was so powerful to me, and they always supported it their entire lives. So it is reality. But I think when you make that comment, especially when you're a certain age, I feel like it is purely A, jealousy, and B, you're scared. You're scared to take a risk. You just are. And look, maybe you're in a situation in life where you can't take a risk because you've got 5 kids and you've got to have the income from your job. So you can't go pursue the pro fishing career you once wanted to. But as someone who had a steady every 2 week, I get paid job for 18 years at the same company and decided, hey, this isn't for me anymore. I'm not happy. And now I have to do about 5 or 6 different things to make a living, to be self-employed. I can tell you the risk is worth the reward. It's scary. But
you're going to fail at first for a while.
I'm still failing. I'm figuring it out as I go all day, every day. But it's constant, and you can never be comfortable. But I've always lived my life like that. Like I'm standing on thin ice, always like, all right, got to keep moving because something's coming. Right. But I say that to say you don't have to accept that hand that you're dealt. You just don't, man. You don't. So don't give into that. If you've got a dream, whether it's bass fishing or whatever, you don't have to just accept, well, I just can't do it because of X. You can figure it out. Just like yourself, I've slept in the back of mini trucks and boat ramp parking lots because I couldn't afford a hotel. Right. I've ate peanut butter and crackers all week because I couldn't get anything else. And I have fished close to the boat ramp every day of an event because I couldn't afford the gas to go anywhere else. I've hoped that they were biting right here. Like I've been there. Like, well, they're going to catch them 80 miles from here, but I can't go there because if I don't get a check, I'm screwed. So I'm going to have to stay.
I don't know about you, Luke, but there's part of me that I look back on those days and man, I miss them because when you have nothing and you're risking everything, you are living, man. In the words of Matthew McConaughey, like you are living. And I miss those a lot.
I think it's the same with fishing, the old saying of you don't know what you don't know. When you are figuring it out at first and you have amazing days, honestly, by accident, you really don't know what you're doing at all, but you're just winging it and you're just on the road. You got your buddies with you and you're just like, hey, let's drive down to Okeechobee and try that. Okay, cool. We got a tournament coming. I used to go and I would pack a little single man tent in the back of my truck and stay at any campground that I could find a spot, just bare bones all the time. And would just go fish new lakes, just knowing that one day I would have an opportunity to fish those. And I would do that, man. And me and my buddies would pool our money together to get gas money to go and things. And we would do that. I went to Okeechobee one time in July and slept in a tent. listen, all you low lifers, you think you're tough, go sleep in a tent in Okeechobee in July. You don't sleep. Newsflash, you don't sleep because it's 100 degrees and you
It's
sweat the entire day. And the mosquitoes do find a way into the tent.
Yep.
But I think about those days so much, and you don't know, you're just running around wild in the boat. You're like, let's go over here, let's try this. But once I've got now 30 years of fishing experience under my belt, now I'm too smart to do those things and to throw the baits that I once threw, and I'm throwing Japanese dice and all this other crazy crap now instead of just doing what I need to do. But
it's not Japanese, it ain't catching them.
Well, there's some truth to that, I think sometimes. A little truth. There's a little truth to that. But I think that it's there is a beauty, like you're saying, and just kind of not knowing what having something's like, not knowing, because I can tell you, I'll look right at this camera and say this, Miss Kristine, is that I made a great living for a long time. And when you strip that away and you got 5 kids and you got a wife and you got a mortgage, you got all the things, and then you kind of take the risk. When I say it's scary, it's terrifying because you're used to a certain way of life. But then once you kind of assimilate into, I feel like I'm a little bit right now at 41. I'm back to that 19-year-old me that's just figuring it out.
Scrapping.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at right now. And I love life right now as much as I've loved it in 20 years. And it's just like, it's a lot of dang fun. It just is. It's a new frontier, kind of like what you've been doing in the fishing industry, in my opinion.
Yeah. You nailed it. And I wouldn't change a thing. I used to joke, when I did work 3 jobs, I always would tell myself, man, I'm going to be self-employed like my parents one day, and I'm going to have all this free time. And I've been self-employed for over 10, 12 years now. And I never have free time. Like, I'm working my butt off, and it's weekends, it's nights, it's everything all over again. I'm like, man, what was I thinking? But I would never, ever, ever trade it. I would never trade it.
You got to want it, and you got to want to be a gypsy, and you're a gypsy. You
gotta love bass fishing. You gotta love fishing.
You do.
I think we both see it now in a lot of the professional anglers with a lot of you can just tell that, if you don't love bass fishing, there's no way you're happy right now in some of the negativity that's out there.
No.
There's no way that and it's going to affect your fishing. It's going to affect your attitude. It's going to affect how you treat people around you. It's going to affect your everyday well-being. And I always, even in some of my lowest lows and some of the toughest things I've had to go through, what's got me through and kept me going is that I love our sport more than anything. And I believe in it. And that's what's gotten me through. It's just my love of fishing.
Amen. Same with me. If it wasn't for fishing, I don't know where my life would be. And I've said this many times, and the low lifers like, yeah, we get it. I've said this for years. You can take all this away. You can take away every job I have in the fishing industry. Tomorrow could lose it all. And Monday morning, you know what I'd wake up wanting to go do? Go catch one on top water. And I will. Like, y'all whenever I finally shut the button down on this forever, and like, hey, I'm going to not do a podcast anymore. That day will come. I'm not going to do this till I'm 100, but it's not going to happen tomorrow or anything. But I'm saying, like, whenever I decide social media is crazy and I'm not going to do any of this stuff anymore, I promise you, I'll still be bass fishing a lot because I go every chance I get now, just like I did when I was a kid. I get to fish way less now, though. Like you said, when you're self-employed, in the fishing world, I get to fish less than I did before I worked in the fishing world. That's just the reality. It is. But loving it first is what you got to do. I saw a friend of yours, and I don't know her well. I'm such a fan of hers in this world too, because she's so positive. But Macy Watkins, I know you and Macy are friends, and I like Macy and Slade. I've not spent a ton of time around them, but great people. And she made a post this week where someone had came at her with some negativity, like a real effing job, just grown men that are jealous of her situation. Right. And that she's a risk taker. And I loved her response about it. And it's essentially what you just said in that, hey, yeah, it looks good on paper, bud. But let me tell you, you've got to love it because I work harder and I'm all over the place. I work way harder than I would if it was just a normal 9 to 5 for me. And I'm not saying, listen, There are folks digging ditches. There are linemen. There are first respond. There are people that put their lives on their line for the job. I'm not saying that. I'm not making light of anyone's real job, because there's a lot of, I say real job. There's a lot of tough people in this world, but I'm just saying to do things creatively, to put together a lot to make a living. It's way more difficult than people think.
Yeah, I always have a lot of respect for the people that do, just regardless of where they're at in life at the time, just are there and they're present and they're making the most out of it and they're trying to impact somebody. I used to know people that would look down at you if you didn't make six figures, or if you weren't a doctor or, lawyer, you weren't saving lives. And I remember back when I lived in Nebraska, and I was in my mid 20s, like starting to just kayak fish for, local tournaments. And I was out fishing, got down to the tournament, stopped by this gas station in the middle of nowhere. And there were probably 30-year-old kid working. And I was about 5 people back in line. And I watched how he interacted with all of the customers. He had a huge smile on his face. He was making jokes, asking them how their day was. Got to me, and I had 2 breakfast burritos, and it was just like 6:00 in the evening. And he was like, "Those are breakfast burritos?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "I'm just going to give those to you because I don't even know if they're still good." And I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Can I ask you something?" And he's like, "Yeah, what's that?" And I was like, you have the best attitude, like what is what's going on in your day or your life that he was infectious. His joy was infectious. And he said, "Well, if you had asked me what I wanted to be when I grow up, it wouldn't be a gas station attendant. And I really, this is not my dream job, but I figured right now it's what I got to do. And I'm going to make the best day of it every single day and impact as many people as I can while I'm doing it." And I never forgot that kid working there that said that. And I've taken that with me everywhere. Our journeys are going to take us in different paths and have us in digging ditches, or, working 3 jobs, or being the bartender, or the doctor, or the person saving lives. And it really is about our disposition. And there's so much power in that. And what that kid taught me that day, and just, he wasn't working where he wanted to, but my goodness, was he going to be the freaking happiest. He said, "I'm going to be the best dang gas station attendant that this state's ever seen." And he just gave me a little nook, and I was like, "Man, you already are." It was just the coolest freaking thing,
But a story like that, you probably follow up with him now, and he probably owns a gas station.
That's what I mean. Those are the people that I surround myself with. It's the people that never look at somebody else and say, I hate them for it. They got that, must have been easy. It's the people that are like, that person has what I want. I want to figure out what they did to do it, learn from them. And they have that type of mentality where it's just always positive. You're a go-getter, you're a hustler, and you can do anything you want if you're willing to sacrifice everything and you're willing to give everything you got. Those are the people that in this career, your circle gets very small. And I've learned some tough lessons in that, and some hard. Well, I know that you have to. It's been the people you surround yourself with, your company, the people that sit at your table, if you will, that is everything in this sport. And I've let go of a lot of people that were good friends that just, the negativity, I couldn't take it anymore. It brings you down to that level, and you can't thrive in that.
We have so much of it now too. And it's crazy to me. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I listened to a bunch of podcasts, and I'll be honest, I do not remember which podcast this was on. I've been traveling a ton lately. My brain is mush, but someone said, it might have been Sean Ryan or somebody, but said,
I love him.
I love Sean Ryan. And I'm going to paraphrase, misquote it for sure, but it was something along the lines of, the internet was invented. When it was invented, we thought that it was going to be the greatest thing that ever happened in human history. We were going to have more access to information at our fingertips. We were going to know everything. We were all going to become infinitely smarter. And
airball.
Swing and a miss. We went the other way, and it brings out the dregs of society. It brings out this hatred, it is truly, man. And look, before anybody comments, I know I can stir the pot. I have stirred the pot, but you'll never see me in somebody's Facebook comments when they've got like their new baby boy and they're holding it up and being like, damn, that's an ugly kid. I bet you ain't even the daddy or whatever. Like, because there's never a post. It doesn't matter. It could be the cutest kid. It could be the biggest bass. It could be the cutest puppy. And somebody inevitably will comment some BS that I'm like, you woke up and chose violence today, Ricky. And I don't know why you did. That doesn't make sense to me. Now, I don't have that gear in me. To be that way. But it seems as the deeper we get into this, Kristine, that that's kind of where we're headed, a dumbing down of society almost. And it scares me. It scares me for my kids. It scares me for really the future, because my kids all are addicted to social media, and I could be a better parent and knock it out of their hand. But it's like,
it's hard.
How do you do it? Because they see dad, like I make part of my living through social media. So how do I tell them, yeah, get off that social media stuff? That's bad. And then I'm like, I got to see how many likes this post got. I mean, I'm 41. It's ridiculous at this point, actually. But how do you personally deal with negativity? Because I see, and I always try to get in your comments and mix it up because people piss me off. But I do that in the fishing industry a lot. And as Fat Cat says, Duncan, you can't fix them. What are you trying to? I'm like, no, I just like to see where their head's at. How do you deal with it though? Personally, how do you deal with negativity when you get sent some your way?
A lot better than I used to. I'll tell you that. And what I learned a long time ago, thank goodness, because the first few years were brutal. When before I had won a lot of tournaments, my first tournament I won, I had a guy that, and I had actually running my GoPro for all of it, but I wasn't posting on YouTube then. So I had all the footage for myself. And I had just a random troll that said, after my Kentucky Lake win, that he said, I know somebody caught all of her fish for her. And oh my gosh, I was bawling. I let it get to me that bad that I was, and this is 8 years ago or so, but I was bawling. And I was on St. Clair when I actually saw that comment running to another spot. And I was actually leading that tournament. And I stopped fishing because I didn't want to win again. I was scared to win, thinking of what the comments were going to be like. But what I learned is that, and how I deal with negativity, and this is just, it's so generic, but it's the best, it's the best way to process it, is that it really is never about you. Those people that make those comments, they're not only making that comment on your post, they're commenting that forward-facing sonar is ruining the sport, or they're commenting, they got passed up for a job promotion and they're making excuses of why they got passed up for a job promotion. It's not that one comment directed at you. That is that person's every single day life. Mm-hmm. Negativity, making excuses, making negative comments on all kinds of people's posts, because it never is just about that one person. They're hateful in a lot of different ways. And if you really think about it like that, you almost have to feel bad for them, because I mean, how miserable is your life when that is what you are just filling yourself with every single day? You know how good it feels to compliment somebody? Or like buy somebody Starbucks drink, or just say, look, I really like that hat. It compliments your beard. They're both great.
What? Here I was.
I like to throw a compliment to the backhanded compliment.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Low Budget Live. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Kristine, this is over.
Fire. So, we wanted some controversy, but you know what I mean.
Look, I know I'm gray. Okay. 40 years old. I am weathered. I have seen it. I've done it. Okay. I've earned these stripes.
You have. And gray is distinguished.
It is. Yeah. I don't know. Let me tell you what gray is at my house. When I wake up and look in the mirror every morning, gray is tired. Gray is like, damn, I got to drive 9 hours today to go to Texas and back. That's gray for me right now. Not to be Eeyore. We just talked about positivity, but yeah, I have earned this. Dadgummit. I have earned the gray. No, I agree with you. Doing, uplifting folks. I had a gentleman that will remain nameless that's a fan of this show that came up to me at Douglas, and I'll try to tell this without getting choked up, because it got me, and because he didn't know how much I needed to hear it at the time too. And he told me that he lost his job last year around the time that I left TH Marine, and I had made the podcast kind of saying, hey, you can swim. I mean, that was my line from it that just kind of hit me as I was talking, like, jump in, go get to swimming. Like, you don't know. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, but like I'm swimming I'm swimming on my own. And now I'm, getting closer to 2 years into that journey. And listen, I'm paddling like hell and I got little floaties on. Like it's still a lot, but he told me, he said, man, I lost the best job I'd ever had. And I was making finally, and this gentleman was older than I was. And he said, I was finally making the money that I always wanted to make. And he said, after 2 years, I just walked in and they cut all of us. And he said, I didn't know what I was going to do. I got kids. And he said, man, I went fishing. He said, I had a little severance deal and I went fishing. And he said, every day I listen to your podcast. And he said, but that one, he said, it helped my life, man. And he said, I've just always wanted to see you in person to be able to tell you this. And he was crying and I was crying. And in that moment, I'm like, you know what? For every SOB that gets in my comments or messages my wife, don't do that, by the way. But for every one of those, there are thousands of people that are like this gentleman that do appreciate what you do and that are genuine fans of what you do. And it starts their week, or they listen to it when they're bored or when they're fishing or pass the time when they're driving, whatever. But that means more to me to know if that was the only story. And I've heard lots of those kind of stories over the years, but this one impacted me so much. Cause I'll be honest with there's so many, I call them goons because I think they are, that are just lurking out there these days making videos. And it's always negative. You won't ever hear anything positive and ever. And no good stories, no guests or anything. And they just tear the industry down. And they're not a part of the industry, if that makes sense. Like it just sucks and it's stupid and they get views. And I'm sure it makes their existence better for them for a little bit. But man, for all that, like, because I have days where I'm like, do I want to keep doing this? Because it's like, am I contributing to that at times? Right. Because I've been controversial and I have stirred the pot but out of this is, I believe, episode 322 right here with you. And I'm like, but for 322, if you look, there was probably about maybe 10 of those 322, that were like that. And maybe more, but I doubt it. And, but I get frustrated with it. But hearing that one story, and I told him, I was like, man, you don't understand. The last year of my life's been a roller coaster. Even after I made that podcast talking about swimming, like swimming's been hard. My arms get tired a lot of days treading water. Like it's hard. Life's thrown me a lot of curves in the last year. But man, just hearing that. But as you said, knowing you make a positive impact, damn, that feels so much better than tearing somebody down. There's no doubt.
It does. And another thing that's really important, and I've learned this, but I take it for granted because I worked in male-dominated industry since I was 18. So I kind of developed some very thick skin and just a pretty good sense of humor. So I think that one of the really important things is to not take everything so gosh dang seriously. I see some people get so bent out of shape over the negative comments, and every once in a while I'll have fun with them and shoot something witty back, but I never get offended. And one really cool thing was I had a comment on one of my it was double-digit bass earlier this spring.
I remember.
And it was a mess. Admittedly, it was a total mess. Yeah. I had some guy commenting on there, and it was, you effing suck. You always lose big bass because all caps, you suck. I mean, giant comment, all caps, the guy was heated. And honestly, I was laughing so hard because I was like, one, on a couple of those things, he was spot on. And two, like, this dude is passionate. So I go up and speak at a sports show in Milwaukee in March. Guess who comes up to me? That guy. He said he drove 4 hours when he saw I was speaking because he wanted to meet me. And he's like, I'm that guy that made you that comment about you sucking at getting those big bass. It's like, I want you to know I'm one of your biggest fans. I love your stuff. I came here to see you and just tell you, I just want you to get better and, more proficient at getting these bass. And I gave him the biggest hug. And we just
love that.
And I was like, dude, the fact that you came up face to face and told me that you were the one that left that outrageous comment.
I remember the comment. Yeah,
I remember. I'll never forget it because it was a lot of caps and symbols.
A lot of caps. Yeah. Well, and here's my thing. This is what I have figured out too. You have a lot of people, and this was a Darian joke for a lot of years when we do Low Budget Live, and you would get somebody in the comments spamming some negativity. It's that same guy that you run into at the classic. It's like, sup, man? You signed my hat.
Yeah, that's all I
Most
mean.
of the time. And it's like they just want attention. And then I've had direct messages sent my way that I will interact with that are negative. And I'm like, when you hit them back, most of the time they're like, hey man, I was just kidding. Or hey man, I'm sorry. Hey, it's like the fella that messaged my wife when I made a video and 25,000 people watched it real quick. I think he probably regretted that, Kristine. I think he was like, this was a terrible idea. Now, did he apologize? No. He just blocked us both and ran away. But I'm saying most of the time, most of the time, they think it's a good idea. And then they're like, oh, I got this guy's attention. Some of them don't care. They want to get under your skin. They want to stir the pot. That's what they do all day. Like you said,
most of them just stop taking everything so gosh seriously and getting offended.
My thing is I don't care if you catch one out of a kayak, if you catch one out of a pontoon, if you catch one out of a saltwater boat, if you standing on the bank, if you want to use live scope, if you want to use live bait, I don't care. I love catching bass. If you called me today and said, hey, we're going to go catch some muskie, I would think that's awesome. If you want to take me kayak smallmouth fishing, I would think that's awesome. If you want to load me up in your bass boat and go, hey, we're going to go scope some in the middle, cool, let's go do that too. Do I get to reel one in? Because that's what I love. So these people that are just losing their minds based on, in my opinion, propaganda that's stirred up for the most part. I just like Rick Clunn's take on all of this has been so beautiful.
Oh my gosh. I did listen to that recent podcast with him and I was,
it
is, and that
it's amazing. Like his perspective is incredible. And I'm just like, we could all use a dose of that right now. I saw yesterday MLF, they other than MPFL banning live scope, like MLF took a big stand on it. They're like, hey, we've got the format where we can do this in this tournament. We're going to do this in this tournament. But with BPT, they can use it for 2.5 hours. They posted a clip of Jacob Wheeler reeling one in, and it was tons of comments, and 90% of them were scoping's not bass fit. And they don't even know that out of an 8-hour day, they can only use it for 2.5 hours. They don't care. Yeah, they don't care. But I'm saying it's like it popped up in their feed. Let's go. Get those fingers ready to type all caps.
I get that all the time too. And there's most of them. Like I didn't use scope for that entire tournament that I just won. No, it wasn't even on at all, but I had a couple comments about scoping's not fishing. And I think, I always like the people that have their opinions, but I look at it like the political world. You have your opinions, but you respect where everybody's coming from. And regardless of the outcome, you go on and you live your life and do the best you can. That's my stance on it. If live scope is banned, okay. If it's not, okay. I'm going to go out there and do the best I can with what I got in front of me to catch the bass.
Yeah. They ban it tomorrow. Guess what? It's like I said earlier, if all this goes away, I'll still go fishing Monday morning. I won't have screens to trip over. I won't have as many screens to trip over on the front deck, and I can finally throw away all my jig head and minnows, I guess. Go back to doing what I like to do the most. All right. So I want to ask you this very difficult questions here to end this amazing. And you're like, oh boy, where is he going? This is not that difficult. If you, and this is mainly for me personally, I'm going to be honest. You're a kayak expert, I feel like, and I know you've ran several different kinds, but if somebody listening to this show wants to get into kayak bass fishing, I'm not talking about having split screens and all the stuff, but what is a good setup they should have to start kayak bass fishing? Well,
I always say, I said the same thing when I sold and sporting goods and hunting and fishing back in my early 20s. Your experience matters. So I always tell people, yes, you can go and get a $500, bass fishing kayak at one of the box shops. But I really, truly think if you want to invest in kayak fishing and you want to enjoy the experience, you don't have to have all the electronics or all the stuff, but you need to have a kayak that you're not going to feel shaky on, that you're not going to tip over. Because if you tip and you lose a rod, you're done. You're not going to kayak fish again. So I wholeheartedly believe, and I can say this because I have been offered, deals with every single kayak brand out there. That Hobie Pro Angler is like the bread and butter, one of the best kayaks out there for stability, for layout, for storage, for everything. And I really, really like it. Hobie makes some smaller ones that I personally feel a little cramped in. I like to just feel like I'm comfortable out there, and the seat is elevated. It's comfortable. If you got a seat where you can't sit in it for more than 3 or 4 hours without getting uncomfortable, you're going to have a bad experience. So I'll stand by that. I'm just going to live and die on that hill, probably.
Let me ask you. So the elevated seat thing, that's starting to be more popular, a trend around, because, you had the sit-ins and then you had to sit on tops, and people kind of, mix and match with those. And I've owned several of the cheaper ones. Listen, I got 5 kids, Kristine. We're not out here buying Hobies all the time at the Duncan plantation here. But I hate, and I'm on the quest right now I want one that I can sit up higher in, because it crushes my back like 3 or 4 hours in to be down so low. I hate that. And I do like that is the trend, but I guess accessibility, castability and things, sitting up high obviously helps.
Yeah, for sure. You're casting, you see a little bit more, but the comfort's the biggest thing. When you're sitting low, your hip flexors are straining all day, pulling on your low back. Like, it just sucks, man. You want to be comfortable.
Okay.
You want to be comfortable. That's, I think, first and foremost, that's people's immediate reaction to why they don't want to kayak fish. I'm going to tip it, and it's not going to be comfortable.
Well, let me ask you this then, too, for the folks listening and for myself: pedal driven versus just paddling around. Pedals the way to go, right? Like,
yeah. Do you want to be fishing or do you want to be paddling?
Yeah.
Because I started my career in a paddle kayak, and I thought I was Billy Badass out there because I was paddling and, getting to my spots and trying to hold my position with my paddle, and I'd pick up my rod and put the paddle here. And then all these guys with pedal kayaks were just cruising by me in the wind, fishing the whole time. And I let that stubbornness go real fast.
So it's the deal then. That's what I need to, okay.
Have to.
All right. You heard it here from an expert, ladies and gentlemen. Because I do think that so many, and look, it depends on your budget. If you can't go buy the Hobie Pro Angler, like, I get it. I get that. And maybe you get else, but I would agree with you. And I know nothing on the kayak world, but like, stability is so huge, and the comfort, because you're not going to, what has steered me away from it more times than not is that comfort factor. I want to be able to stand up. I've never owned one that I feel like I can be like Kristine and up there just, flipping.
What I will say too, the used kayak market, there's, especially if you're just getting into it, there's no need to go out there and buy probably a brand new kayak right away if you can't afford it. You can save a lot of money on Facebook Marketplace or looking at the kayak fishing forums. People are always selling lightly used kayaks, and you can get them. I mean, especially right now, it seems to be even a little saturated with used kayaks. Okay. There's incredible deals out there.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. And I know so many folks that listen to this show, they don't have a boat. They're looking to get, and I think the kayak tournament avenue is so amazing. And I've told you, I want to, because y'all smash them all the time. I think I want to get a dose of that at some point in life. I'm intrigued by it.
It'd be a cool experience for you.
I would like to do it, even if it's just a 1 or 2 off deal. And you and I have actually discussed this before. We were going to do it at Pickwick a couple years ago, and it just didn't work out. But I want to try it. We're going to continue that conversation for sure. All right. Last thing. And I appreciate your time so much. I appreciate you coming back on, but you and I talk music.
Mm-hmm.
A lot over the years, and it's one thing that we bonded on when we first kind of got to know each other. Give me the Kristine playlist right now on the road. You just won, and then you drove from Oklahoma to Tennessee. What's that playlist looking like in case there's some that I'm not that aren't on my radar right now?
I think pretty much all of it's on your radar. Charles Wesley, I've gotten him a little bit. I mean, Turnpike, The Rut is I love that song. Yeah. Or, gosh dang, I'm a Spotify girl, and I'll pick a song and let it just randomly generate things. Yep. I like Vance Joy. That's a little more mellow, but I love Vance Joy, kind of getting on the road. I'm a red dirt girl at heart though. Yep. So Chris Stapleton, White Horse, that's my Bassmaster classic song right there.
Okay, I guess you amped up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But I can't think of anything that you always got me on the new and up and coming music. So I don't think
See, I feel like I slack on that these days. I will I'm an Apple Music guy because I like to, download.
Steven Wilson Jr.
Oh yeah. I bet. Listen, I
love him.
I've done been on that. Now I will say, so his album, My Father's Son,
one of the best albums ever in my opinion.
It's incredible. But I will say, not to be a sappy dude, when I lost my dad last year, I have to avoid that one. That one is
I can see why.
Yeah, man. He had my dad and I had kind of a complicated relationship over the years, and him and his dad did as well. And I've heard his stories behind those songs. And I think that's what drew me, honestly, to that album at first, other than like, he's just got such a unique writing style. And I still listen to it, but there's a couple of those I have to avoid to not have waterworks in the truck, as you can imagine. But if you have not heard that album, Steven Wilson Jr.
Top album from start to finish. Incredible. One of the best albums ever.
Incredible. And I've got to see him live. I'm still not seeing Steven live. I've got to catch the show. He's incredible. But yeah, Steven Wilson's fantastic. Love Charles Wesley Godwin as well. We got a new Whiskey Myers fixing to come out. It's a little more rock.
Oh, and I love long time Whiskey Myers girl.
Yeah, we got some Whiskey Myers coming, but for me, it's all the new Turnpike. I think Marissa might be sick of hearing it, but I've been on repeat for a little over a month since it came.
Their new one has been fantastic. I've been playing it quite a bit.
So good, man. And the cool thing for me, Kristine, you talk about passing things on and inspiring. Here's what I know. This is how I know I'm doing at least a half-ass decent job in life. Is my 14-year-old can sing every word to every song on the new Turnpike and sings it like he wrote it. And I'm like, you know what? We're going to be all right. We're going to be all right around here. He loves to bass fish, loves to deer hunt, and he likes Turnpike. I'm like, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
I'll let him get on TikTok every now and then if that's what he's into. You know what I mean? As I said, too much social media, but I'm like, he also likes these things. We're good with it.
Yeah.
We're good with it here. All right, Kristine Fischer. Make sure you're following her. You probably are if you were listening to the show. And if you're not, shame on you. Some of the best fishing content out there. You can learn. You'll laugh every now and then when she falls in. Never in a kayak, though. She's never going to fall in a kayak, only in a bass boat. Kristine, I really appreciate it. Kristine Fischer, everybody. Well, all right. That's all she wrote with Kristine Fischer. Man, I appreciate her taking so much time out to chat with us low-lifers, and I appreciate you low-lifers checking that out. She is, again, I'm such a fan. Make sure you're following her on all social media if you are not already. Shame on you. But just a positive soul, a bright spot in this sport, and somebody I always enjoy doing a podcast with. We've done a couple now, and always a great conversation, great time. So I appreciate her. Thanks, y'all. I'm fixing to hit the road. I got to get the hell down to South Alabama, lower Alabama, as they say, L.A. I'm going to take you out with some Biloxi Blues, and I'll see y'all next week. As soon as this works. See? I know what I'm doing. See ya.
Ghost, well, I'm going to leave them in the past. Any direction, Lord, I'll be fine. It don't matter, east or west. North, south, wherever the wind blows, I'm leaving those burdens at rest. This highway, it does not know my name.